All right, so today we're diving into something pretty fascinating, something called Nadi Pariksha.
Oh yeah, pulse diagnosis
Pulse diagnosis, exactly.
from Ayurveda.
Straight from Ayurveda. And it's not just like checking your heartbeat, right?
No, no, no. It's way more than that. This is serious stuff. They use this to diagnose what's going on in your body right now
Yeah.
and even predict, future health stuff.
Yeah.
It's wild. We've got some research here that goes deep, deep, deep into this whole practice. Like, how has it been used over centuries? How did it develop? All that good stuff.
And what blows my mind right off the bat is how central this idea of really thoroughly examining a person is in Ayurveda. Like, before you even think about treatment, you got to understand the person's individual constitution, right?
Yeah, like what are the root causes of whatever's out of whack?
Yeah.
Like why is this person not feeling their best?
Exactly. So examination is huge in Ayurveda, and this Nadi Pariksha, it's a key part of that.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just some random technique. It's like a core piece of this bigger system called Ashtavida Pariksha.
Ashtavida Pariksha. Okay.
Yeah, so that's like an eight-limbed system of examining a person.
Hmm.
And it's all laid out in those classic Ayurvedic texts.
We're talking ancient wisdom here.
Ancient wisdom, for sure. And there's this one text, the Yogaratnakara, that really drives home how crucial pulse diagnosis is.
Okay, lay it on me.
So get this. They compare the nadi, the pulse, to the strings of a veena.
A veena, like that Indian instrument.
Exactly, that lute-like thing. And each string is playing a different raga.
Raga, like a musical mode.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a beautiful way to think about it, right? Because it shows you just how much information they believe is packed into your pulse. Like each little variation is telling the story.
It's like your pulse is its own symphony.
Yeah, and that veena analogy really gets to me. It just perfectly captures this idea that in Ayurveda, your pulse isn't just some simple beat. It's like a mirror reflecting your whole being, your state of health, everything.
It's reflecting your whole life force. And speaking of nadi, I know it translates to pulse, but it's not just the physical pumping of blood, right?
Right. It's like deeper than that.
Hmm.
It's more about the energy flowing through your body, like a river of information.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. So Ayurveda has all these methods of examination, right? Like they look at everything, urine, stool, your tongue. They even listen to your voice. They look at your overall appearance, your eyes, and of course, the pulse, the nadi.
You get the whole picture.
The whole picture, yeah. And through all that, the pulse is consistently seen as the most important.
Like the VIP of examinations.
The VIT, exactly. And this isn't some newfangled idea either. We're talking ancient texts here, like the Bela Samhita, the Harit Samhita. These are old school. And then, over time, other scholars and practitioners, they kept building on that foundation of knowledge.
Yeah, they took that ancient wisdom and ran with it.
They ran with it, exactly. And what I find super interesting is how different the Ayurvedic approach is from how we examine the pulse today, like in Western medicine.
Oh, yeah, totally different.
Like today, it's all about the rate, the rhythm, the pressure, how strong is your pulse. That's all important for your heart health, obviously. But Ayurveda, they take it so much further. It's like they're using the pulse to decode the secrets of your entire system.
Right, like they're trying to understand how disease works in your body. Not just, oh, you have this condition, but like, okay, how did this happen? Why did this happen to you? And what's going to happen next?
It's like a personalized roadmap of your health.
Yeah, and they also want to get a sense of your, fundamental nature and what health trends you might have in the future. It's pretty mind-blowing.
So the Yogaratnakara, the text we talked about, it really emphasizes this point. It basically says that your pulse, it reveals the status of those three fundamental energies in Ayurveda. Vata, Pitta, and Kapha.
Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Yep. The trifecta.
The trifecta, exactly. So the pulse shows whether those energies are balanced or not, and even gives clues about how a disease might play out.
Like a sneak peek into the future of your health.
Okay, so for our deep dive today, we really want to unpack this whole idea of Nadi Pariksha, what it is, how it works, all that.
Let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Nitty-gritty, yeah. So first things first, what exactly is Nadi in this context? We know it means pulse in Sanskrit, but it sounds like there's more to it than just the physical beat you can feel.
You got it. Nadi does mean pulse, but the philosophy behind it, it runs deep, man. It's deep. So Ayurveda says that the 5 basic elements, space, air, fire, water, earth, they all communicate through this thing called Vishvanadi. It's like this universal energy channel connecting everything in the universe. and we tap into it through our breath.
Whoa, okay, so we're all connected through this Vishwanadi. That's pretty profound.
Right. And when we talk about Nadi Pariksha, we're specifically focusing on the pulse you can actually feel in your body and how to read it, how to interpret all those subtle signs it's giving you.
So it's like a whole language we're trying to understand, the language of the pulse.
Exactly. And the ancient texts, they had so many different names for the pulse. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, you got your Snaryu, your Hansi, Damani, Dara, Tantuki, and then there are these super interesting ones like Jivitajya and Jivanjnana. Those basically mean knower of life or that which understands life.
Knower of life. That's heavy.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It really shows you how much importance they placed on the pulse. Like it wasn't just a physical thing. It was this window into your life force, your destiny, everything.
Okay, so if we want to get practical here, where on the body do they typically examine the pulse? I mean, most people probably think of the wrist.
Yeah, the radial pulse at the wrist, that's definitely the most common spot.
Yeah.
But the old texts, they actually mention a ton of other places where you can feel the pulse. Like your elbow, your arm, your armpit, even your ankle, the top of your foot, your neck.
Whoa, wait, your neck.
Yeah, your neck. And get this, they even mention places like in front of your ear, above your eye, near your nose, even on your tongue and lips.
What? That's a lot of pulse points.
I know, right? It's crazy. They were really paying attention to all these different places where the body's energy is expressed. And they believed each spot could reveal something unique about your health.
So it's like a full body scan, but with just your fingers.
Pretty much. And traditionally, the physician would use their right hand to feel the pulse on the patient's right hand. But for a female patient, they'd use their left hand on the patient's left hand. There's this belief that the pulse at the wrist, specifically, it gives you a direct line to the person's life force. And it's crucial for figuring out what's going on with their health.
Okay, so I'm picturing this scene. The physician and the patient are both sitting comfortably. What happens next? How does the actual Nadi Pariksha go down? What are they feeling for?
All right, so picture this. It's early morning, ideally during the first prahara of the day. That's like the first 3 hours after sunrise. It's quiet, peaceful. The physician gently takes the patient's hand, and they use their index, middle, and ring fingers to feel the pulse at the wrist. And it's not just a light touch. They're really paying attention. They're palpating gently, pressing a little deeper, sometimes even tapping lightly or rolling the artery a bit under their fingers.
They're really getting in there.
They're trying to get a feel for all the nuances of the pulse.
So those three fingers, the index, middle, and ring finger, they each have a specific role, right?
Exactly. Each finger is attuned to a different dosha. So the index finger, that's for Vata. The middle finger is for Pitta. And the ring finger is for Kapha. So the physician is basically listening to each dosha through their fingertips. And they're noticing things like, is the pulse weak? Is it moderate? Is it strong? And they're trying to pick up those unique patterns and qualities that each dosha expresses in the pulse.
It's like a three-part harmony, and they're listening for which part might be out of tune.
Exactly. They're trying to see if any of the doshas are out of balance. And that can tell them a lot about what's going on in the body. And according to Ayurveda, it can even give them clues about whether a disease is likely to be curable or not.
So they're not just diagnosing the current state, they're also getting a sense of the potential outcome. That's powerful stuff.
Right. And a healthy pulse, they describe as being regular, steady, easy to feel at the wrist. And it's supposed to have this kind of movement like an earthworm.
An earthworm.
Yeah, like a gentle undulating motion.
Yeah.
But to really understand what the pulse is saying, they focus on a whole bunch of key characteristics.
Okay, break it down for me. What are they looking for?
So first, you got Gati, which is all about the movement of the pulse, the pattern it makes. Then there's Vega, which is the speed, the rate of the pulse. And Tala, that's the rhythm, how regular the beats are. Then you got Bala, which is the force, the strength of the pulse. And Vikruti, that's about the tension and the volume of the pulse. And then there's Tapamana, which is the temperature, literally how hot or cold the pulse feels. And lastly, there's Kathinya, which is about the consistency of the artery itself, like how hard or soft it is.
Wow, that's a lot to take in. It's like a whole checklist for the pulse.
And each of those characteristics, it's like a clue, a piece of the puzzle that helps them understand what's going on inside the body. And what's crazy is they talk about 7 levels of pulse reading.
7 levels. Okay, now you're really losing me.
I know, it sounds intense. But think of it like layers. You're going deeper and deeper with each level. So the first level is Vikruti, which is your current state of imbalance. Then there's Manas Vikruti, which is all about your mental and emotional state. Then you go deeper to the sub-Doshas, which are like subcategories of the doshas. Then you got the Ojas, Tejas, and Prana. Those are the vital energies. And then even deeper, you have the Dhatus, which are the 7 tissues of the body. And then there's Manas Prakruti, which is your inherent mental constitution. And finally, at the deepest level, you have Prakruti, which is your fundamental constitution, the balance of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha that you were born with.
So it's like an archaeological dig, but inside the body, you're going through all these layers to uncover the truth.
Exactly. And what's cool is they say that in a truly healthy person, the pulse at the deepest level, the Prakruti, it'll be in sync with the pulse at the more superficial levels. Like everything is aligned, everything is flowing smoothly.
It's like a beautiful harmony.
Yeah, symphony of health.
Okay, so let's talk about the movement of the doshas in the pulse, the nadi gadi. How do they actually feel different under the fingers?
So the ancient Ayurvedic folks, they were poets, man. They used all these awesome animal analogies to describe how the doshas feel in the pulse.
Oh, I love a good analogy. Hit me with it.
Okay, so Vata, which you feel most strongly under the index finger. It's got this irregular kind of jerky movement. They say it's like a snake slithering or a leech crawling. It's unpredictable. It doesn't follow a set pattern.
Sneaky little Vata.
Right. And then you got Pitta, which is under the middle finger. It's fast, it's energetic, it's sharp. Like a frog jumping or a crow flying, there's a real intensity to it.
Okay, I can feel the Pitta energy already.
And then Kapha, under the ring finger, it's slow, it's steady, it's smooth. Like a swan gliding across a lake or a pigeon just chilling. It's got this kind of grounded, relaxed vibe.
I can practically see the swan. So those animal images, they really help you understand the different qualities of the doshas in the pulse. It's not just an abstract concept anymore.
Exactly. It brings it to life. And to assess your Prakruti, that fundamental constitution, they go to the deepest level, the 7th level. Right. And to get there, they press down on the radial artery pretty firmly, enough to basically cut off the blood flow for a sec. And then they slowly release the pressure, just a tiny bit. Yeah. And the very first quality of the pulse they feel when the blood flow comes back, that's supposed to reveal your Prakruti. Like, is it more Vata-like, more Pitta-like, more Kapha-like? Yeah. That tells them your inherent balance.
So it's like a reset button. You're going back to the source, the original blueprint.
Exactly. And then the Vikruti, the current state of imbalance, they analyze that at the more superficial levels. So that's reflecting what's happening in your body right now, like which doshas are out of whack, how are the tissues doing, all that.
So it's a snapshot of your present state of health. And the sub-Doshas, the subcategories of the doshas, they play a big role here, right?
Yeah, the sub-doshas are key for understanding the specifics of a disease, like how it's developing, how it's progressing. They're like specialized agents of the doshas working in different parts of the body. And when you're in a state of Vikruti, those sub-doshas can tell you a lot about what's going on, like what kind of imbalance is it, how bad is it, all that good stuff.
So how do they actually feel the sub-doshas in the pulse? Is it about the amount of pressure they apply or what?
So they say you want to use gentle to moderate pressure, somewhere around that 3rd level of palpation.
Yeah.
And if you feel a little spike, like a stronger pulsation under a certain finger, that could indicate an imbalance in the corresponding sub-dosha.
It's like a little signal flare going off saying, hey, pay attention to me.
Exactly. But it takes a lot of skill and sensitivity to pick up on those subtle cues. And the Nadi Gadi, those characteristic movements we talked about, they apply to the sub-doshas too.
So if you feel a snake-like movement under the index finger, that could mean a Vata sub-dosha is out of balance.
Exactly. And if it's like a frog jumping under the middle finger, that could be a Pitta sub-dosha. And a slow, swan-like motion under the ring finger, that could point to a Kapha sub-dosha. And sometimes you might feel a combination of movements, which could mean there's an imbalance involving 2 doshas.
It's like a dance of the doshas playing out under your fingertips.
And then, of course, you got those situations where all 3 doshas are out of whack, the Sanapataja condition. And those pulse descriptions are pretty wild.
Yeah, they sounded pretty intense in the research.
They definitely use some vivid imagery. So they say a Sanapataja nadi, it's got a gadi that's like the movements of certain birds, like the bustard quail, the gray partridge, or the button quail.
Okay, those are some specific birds.
Right. And the idea is the pulse is going to be all over the place, unpredictable, reflecting that chaotic mix of imbalanced Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. It's not going to be a simple beat. It's going to be this complex, ever-changing rhythm.
So the pulse is reflecting the storm going on inside the body.
Exactly. And we can't forget about the Dhatus, the tissues. They can also be assessed through Nadi Pariksha.
Right, so we're talking about blood, muscle, fat, bone, all those essential building blocks of the body.
Yep, all 7 of them.
Yeah.
And they're evaluated at the 5th level of pulse reading, so you're going a bit deeper here. And this level, it's all about AMA, those metabolic toxins that build up when your digestion isn't working properly. And it also reflects how the doshas are influencing the Dhatu Agni, which is like the metabolic fire responsible for each tissue. So if a Dhatu is healthy, you shouldn't feel any weird spikes or anything at that fifth level. But if a Dhatu is being messed with by an imbalanced dosha, you might feel a distinct spike or change in the pulse under the corresponding finger.
So it's like each finger is tuned to a different tissue. That's wild.
It is wild. And then you got the vital energies, the ojas, tejas, and prana. They also show up in the pulse, and that's at the fourth level.
Okay, remind me again what those energies represent.
So ojas is like your overall vitality, your immunity, your resilience. Think of it like your life force reserve. Tejas is all about transformation, metabolism, that inner fire that keeps everything running. And prana is the life force itself, the energy that drives your breath, your circulation, your whole being.
So these are pretty crucial energies. And just like the doshas, they each have a specific finger at that fourth level.
Right. So if you feel a strong or unusual pulsation in the ring finger at that level, that could point to an issue with ojas. A spike in the middle finger could mean something's up with tejas, and a change in the index finger could indicate a prana disturbance.
So they're not just feeling for imbalances, they're also assessing the state of these vital forces. It's like a full energy audit.
It's pretty incredible, right? And we haven't even touched on the more intense stuff.
Oh yeah, the Arishta Lakshana, the signs of impending death.
Yeah, that's some serious stuff. It requires a whole other level of skill and intuition from the practitioner. It's not just about feeling the pulse. It's about understanding the deeper meaning behind those subtle changes.
So are there specific changes in the pulse that can indicate how much time a person might have left?
So according to the text, yeah, like if the pulse is felt further away from the wrist than normal, like 2 finger widths up the arm, that could mean a shorter time frame, maybe an hour and a half. And if it's even further up, like 3 finger widths, and it feels cold and really fast, that could indicate maybe 3 hours. It's all about those subtle shifts in location, temperature, speed, all that.
It's like the pulse is literally retreating from the body.
It's a powerful image, right? And any major changes in temperature, like the pulse becoming really cold or super hot, those are considered serious. Same with the rate. If it gets way too fast or too slow, that's not a good sign. And then there are changes in the quality of the pulse itself. Like if it becomes really thin or feels twisted or it's so weak you can barely feel it, those are all bad news.
So it's not just about one specific change, it's about the overall picture.
Exactly. And then there's some really specific sensations they describe, like feeling a super thin, thread-like pulse under the middle finger, or this weird vibration that feels like a damaru drum. And if the pulse keeps disappearing and reappearing, that's also not good.
And what about the different qualities felt under each finger? Can that tell you something about the prognosis?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like if the pulse under the middle finger feels really cold and the pulse under the ring finger is super weak, that combination could be a bad sign. And the nadi gati, those characteristic movements, they also play a role in prognosis. So in a Vata-dominant condition, the pulse is going to be super irregular. In a Pitta condition, it'll be really fast. And in a Kapha condition, it'll be slow and heavy.
So the pulse is like a mirror reflecting the dominant dosha.
Precisely. And beyond the doshas, there are some pulse patterns that are just universally considered bad news, like a shaky, thread-like pulse that you can only feel every now and then. That's a bad sign. And a pulse that feels thin and twisted, whether it's superficial or deep, that's also not good. And if the pulse keeps changing between fast, slow, thin, thick, and sometimes you can't even feel it, that's a really bad sign. And then there's this crazy description of a pulse that feels like a woodpecker pecking on wood. That's a big no-no.
Wow, that's pretty intense. What about when all three doshas are majorly out of balance, the Sanapataja conditions? Are there specific pulse patterns for those that indicate a bad prognosis?
Yeah, there are some really specific patterns they describe for Sanapataja that are not good. Like if someone starts with a really fast pulse and then the next day becomes cold, weak, and slow, that's a really bad sign. And a pulse that's super slow and feels twisted and agitated, or it keeps stopping and starting, that's also bad news. And a pulse that's way off from its normal location at the wrist, that's another red flag. And then there's this pattern where the pulse keeps cycling through all the doshas, going from fast to irregular to slow, over and over. That's a sign that things are really unstable.
So it's like the body is losing its ability to regulate itself.
Right. And then there's the Damaru-like pulse. It's named after that Indian drum.
Okay, I remember you mentioned that earlier.
So this pulse, it feels strong at the beginning and the end of each beat, but then it gets really slow and weak in the middle. And that's specifically called Ambrichu Suchaka Nadi, which basically means death-indicating pulse.
Wow, that's heavy stuff. But on a lighter note, are there any pulse patterns that are actually good news that indicate a long and healthy life?
There actually are. They're called Chiranjivita Botini Nadi. And one of them is a strong, well-defined pulse in the left brachial artery, the one in your upper arm. If you can feel that pulse really clearly over a long stretch, that's supposed to mean you could live to be like 105 years old. And a really strong pulse in this superficial temporal artery, the one near your ear, that's also linked to longevity, maybe even 105 and a half years.
But those are good pulses to have.
Definitely. But then you have the flip side, the asadhya nadi. Those are the pulse characteristics that mean incurable disease or imminent death. And one of the big ones is a pulse that's just super irregular all over the place. And another one is when all the arteries in the body, not just at the wrist, are pulsating abnormally, and they're getting weaker and weaker, and eventually they just stop. And if the pulse keeps moving further and further away from its normal spot at the wrist, and it's getting harder and harder to feel, that's also a really bad sign. And a pulse that's constantly weak and cold, that's considered a sure sign of death.
So it's like the life force is fading away.
And then there are these really dramatic patterns they describe, like the pulse is basically going haywire right before death. One of them is when the pulse goes from really fast to really irregular to really slow, and it keeps cycling through those changes over and over. It's like the body is losing its grip on life.
It's like a final chaotic dance of the doshas.
And the other one is that Damaru-like pulse, where it's strong at the beginning and end, but super weak in the middle. That's a very specific and very ominous sign.
Wow, this whole deep dive into Nadi Pariksha has been amazing. It's incredible to think about how much information the ancient Ayurvedic practitioners could get just from feeling the pulse.
Right. And the Yogratnakara, it sums it up perfectly. Pulse denotes Vata, Pitta, Kapha, their dual and triple disorder, as well as express prognosis of the disease. It's all right there in the pulse. And a skilled practitioner, they could use that information to figure out your dosha constitution, what imbalances are present, and even how a disease might progress. That's powerful stuff.
And it's not just about diagnosing what's already there, right? It can also help detect subtle imbalances before they even turn into full-blown diseases.
Yeah, that's the beauty of Nadi Vigyana, the science of pulse reading. It can give you those early warning signs, those hints that something might be off, even before you have any symptoms.
It's like preventative medicine at its finest.
Exactly. And we got to remember, this was a crucial diagnostic tool for centuries, way before all the fancy technology we have today.
It was like their x-ray machine, their blood test, all rolled into one.
And what's really interesting to me is, how could we integrate this ancient wisdom with modern medicine? Could we validate some of these claims about the pulse using modern scientific methods? Could we use this knowledge to develop new diagnostic tools or preventative strategies? It's a really exciting area to explore.
Yeah, I think there's so much potential there. And it all comes back to that holistic approach, that understanding of the body as a complex system of energy.
Exactly. And Ashtasathana Pariksha, that 8-limb system of examination with Nadi Pariksha, at its core, it was all about getting a complete picture of the person, their strengths, their weaknesses, their overall state of health. And that's something we can learn from even today.
Absolutely. So for all you listeners out there, here's something to ponder. If something as seemingly simple as feeling the pulse can reveal so much about our health, what other ancient wisdom might we be overlooking? What other secrets might our bodies be trying to tell us if we only knew how to listen? That's something to think about.
Food for thought, for sure.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.
See ya.